Hey friends, welcome to 2023. Can you believe it? If I take a moment and remember what I thought 2023 would look like as a child, I definitely see flying cars and robots in houses, just like on the Jetsons. For those of you who are under the age of 30, the Jetsons were this cartoon that we used to watch that showed a family that lived in the future, equipped with their own house robot named Rosie. Today, alas, in my small corner of the world, I don't have a flying car, nor have I found my house robot to do the laundry, even though the Lord knows that I would desperately love to have her some days. So, now that we've gotten on the same page about robots, let's dive into today's episode as I share a New Year's guide to loving yourself well. Let's get started. Doing things alone is entirely overrated. We all need a community to thrive. And that's why I'm part of an online community of writers and speakers, podcasters, and entrepreneurs called Creatives. And I love it. In the years since I joined this community, I've launched new ideas, and I finally executed the dreams that sat on the shelf for years. Seriously. And I was able to do this because of the outstanding group of mentors, exceptional training, and encouraging mastermind groups with my new friends who did and continue to give me invaluable feedback. Oh, and not to mention all the fun, because we have had lots and lots of fun. Have you ever said, I want to write a book? Or do you want to use your voice for the exciting world of podcasting? If so, Called Creatives is your best resource for up-to-the-minute industry training, expert advice, live coaching, and peer support like no other. Best-selling authors and speakers Allie Worthington and Lisa Whittle lead this community with a no-competition mission, and it shows. So join my friends and I in the Called Creative community. Head to my show notes, danitacummins.com/podcast, and click the link to get all the details to join. I promise you won't regret it. I look forward to seeing you in the community and watching you grow. For the past few weeks, my Instagram and LinkedIn feeds have been filled with advertisements for goal setting and how to start the new year off with success. But does that bother you? For some, it definitely does. We consider New Year's resolutions to be frustrating and even revolting at times. But why is that? Is it because we carry this sense of frustration or self-doubt when we don't accomplish our goals? I don't know. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. But a few years ago, I stopped creating New Year's resolutions too. I just wasn't very good at it and didn't really see the point. But I am very intentional about goal setting and reflection. So today, I'm going to share with you some tips on how to love yourself well as we enter this new year. At the end of every year, I take time to review the past 12 months. I inventory my life and I make a list of the things that worked well and what didn't. I ask myself a series of questions. There's not really a specific formula, but questions like what went well and what didn't? Where did we win? Where did we struggle? Did we accomplish the goals that we set out to accomplish? And if so, how? And if not, why? But then I move into reflection and I ask myself, what are those things that I need to leave behind? And what will next year mean to me? So as we sit on the cusp of a new year with it sprawling before us like an undiscovered wilderness, what do you see? Where are you going? What are your greatest hopes or dreams or desires? Did you even ask yourself that question yet? Have you allowed yourself to take 5 minutes or 15 minutes and dream about the future? Where do your challenges lie? Is it your mindset? Is it your margin? Is it something else? I have a business coach, and she often asks me to fairy wand an issue. And when I can't see the forest for the trees, or if I can't define a tangible goal with metrics, then she asks me, if you had a magic wand, Danita, what would you do? And this allows me to get outside the striving and straining of my own mind, and it lets me dream. For some, planning doesn't have to be an elaborate escapade. For some, it doesn't come easy. I'm a planner. I love a good plan. And that's based on my desire to be efficient and effective. But despite a good plan, I sometimes don't meet the goals that I set. And over the years, I've learned that my issue isn't with the planning. It's actually with the execution. I will spend hours creating amazing spreadsheets and goal lists. Have you seen my spreadsheets? They're pretty good. But then only to find myself 2 or 3 months later without the results that I desired. It's as if as soon as I walk out the door, life shows up and invariably I'm pulled off my amazing plan in pursuit of, well, I don't know, just life, I guess. So here are the 3 things that I use to help me focus only on the things that matter, because life is short and sometimes it's hard. And we all need a little help sometimes. So the first one is to check your mindset. Your mindset is your most important asset. I think I've said that before. I will continue to say it again. Other than faith, it is the most important resource. When I decided to put down my checklist striving self, when I decided to replace my checklist mindset with finding joy in the journey, 2 amazing things happened. 1, it allowed me to grow in my gifts, which are messy and hard. And 2, I started to see that today I am enough just as I am. For me, my faith keeps me grounded. It is the core part of all that I am and all that I do. But it keeps me from being blown to the left or right when the seas of life knock at my door. It's a journey. We say that a lot. But I'm learning how the perceptions of my identity are tied to so many versions of success. Have you ever thought of that? Really? Like, have you ever really sat down and said, how do I define success in my life? How do I do that? And then how do I attach my identity to that? I think there's a lot there. We can explore that later. But in my head and my heart, I struggle to see God's hand on my life in the moments of difficulty or failure or struggle. So as we start a new year filled with possibility and wonder, I want you to allow yourself to consider, how does your identity affect your goals? Will you still be good enough if you don't lose 20 pounds this year, or if you don't pay off that credit card? Yes, you will. You will still be enough. But you are worth it, friend. You are worth it. So, mindset. It's the most important thing. Number 2, you want to make intentional margin. I have a little disclaimer for you. I am a recovering addict, not of drugs or gambling, and I don't say that lightly, but of multitasking. For years, I thrived in it, or so I thought. I can't recall waking up one morning and saying, when I grow up, I want to juggle so many things at once that my head and my heart will spin out of control. But that is exactly what has happened. And I've learned that if I don't make margin in my life, when life shows up, I falter. It's not a complicated concept, really, but I have found it much harder to master in application. For me, the absence of margin looks like this. I expect too much of myself, and I spend a ridiculous amount of time listening to the voice in my head that tells me I'm not good enough or smart enough or fast enough. I lash out at the people that I love because my platter is loaded with too many things, and I'm not sure where I'm going or what I'm doing. It could be my need for security, or it could go back to identity, or it could be fear of failure. I'm not really sure. But in his book, The Master of One, Jordan Raynor explains that most people spend their days making incremental advances on numerous tasks. They're competent at many, but exceptional at none. He says it's because for too long we've believed the lie that more activity, more jobs, more responsibility equals greater effectiveness. For years, I carried the badge of busyness like it was this badge of honor. And I can remember rattling off all the things that I had to do or the activities that we were involved in, only to find myself and my family more and more exhausted at the end of the week. So as you enter this new year, take an intentional effort to make margin in your life. The same is true for organizations. It can be a financial, emotional, spiritual, or physical margin, but we all need boundaries. We have paper, we have them on roads. So think about margin as your boundary line. You need to hold them at all costs. For me, this is the most difficult task because life and my desires are always rushing into the empty space. But I've learned that in order to have the resources that I need to lead well, I have to make space for them. And that means saying yes to some and no to others. One of my dear spiritual mentors taught me what it was like to wait on the Lord. The act of waiting is intentional. It's like when you're standing in line at the DMV trying to get your new car tag and there are 20 people in front of you. You must hold the space. It's hard. It's frustrating, but it is essential for you to grow. The third thing is to practice being present. When we jump into a new season or task, we're often filled with anxiety. And sometimes the anxiety comes from not having enough time to plan. But for me, it sometimes is because I'm carrying the weight of past things. Imagine that every hard moment in your life is a rock, and you carry them day after day after day, dragging them along into the next day or week or month or even year. Past regrets and hurts and disappointments are coupled with grief and sadness and loss. But each one of those things deserves its own place. My good friend, who is a therapist, taught me that every feeling is valid. And so as we get older, it seems to get harder and harder to be present in the moment when we're constantly looking back or forward at what is to come. I just had a birthday a few weeks before Christmas, and there was a series of days where I was really sad. And at first I didn't understand why, but I realized it was because the past is the past. I can't go back. The older I get, the more memories I forget. In the future, those people that I loved or those experiences or places where I've been or roles that I had, they will be no more. And so there's a space for that. And I think for us to love ourselves and others well and to lead well, we have to acknowledge those things. So if you're struggling with this, I recommend these two things. 1, lay things down. Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, just lay them down. Nobody's watching. Nobody really cares. But if you don't allow yourself the space to offload your thoughts or your fears or your regrets, then it's hard to be fully present today. Joy is a completely different thing, and we can talk more about that, but you have a responsibility to just be present in the moment. And first, you have to take inventory and lay things down. The second thing is to cultivate a grateful heart. It's easy to say that. We say it. And of course, over the holiday season, there's 1,000 little memes and Instagrams talking about gratefulness. But it's harder to do it, I think, sometimes. When I find myself getting overwhelmed about the future, I pause and I reflect on the accomplishments that I've gone through or that our team has done. And that seems to help me. It's hard sometimes to see where you're going unless you stop and see how far you've come. So remember this. There will never be enough time or money or people to accomplish all the things that you have in your heart. Each of us as leaders and as people come to the end of our days with a to-do list. That's okay. You don't have to do everything. That's not the point. To be an effective leader, you must understand yourself first, because leadership starts with you understanding and embracing your unique design. Your unique design is different. It's one of a kind, friend, just like you. And you lead through that lens every day. Your experiences and fears and regrets, your passions and your strengths, you bring all of them to the world every single day. So if you haven't already done it, take some time this week to inventory your wins. Write them down, put them on a Post-it. I love Post-its, or your whiteboard, and let yourself see all that you have done. And for the losses, it's okay to feel them, okay? You can let yourself be sad or discouraged or disappointed, but don't stay there in that space because you're still breathing and there is much work to do. Take time this year, even if it's for just a moment or a few moments every day, to be present. Feel the wind on your face. Listen to the sound of your breath. Take a walk in whatever beauty or nature surrounds you. Let your feet squish in the grass or the snow or the salty ocean surf. But be present today because the world needs you to be the best version of you. Over the next few months, we'll be diving into a variety of leadership topics with friends and colleagues all over the globe. In our next episode, I'll be talking with my good friend, Dr. Hope Zeller, about her passion for teaching, leadership lessons, and how she helps teams and organizations grow. So don't forget to join us. Remember that your heart matters, friend. So take the time to love yourself as we launch into this new year and the new adventures that God has planned for you. I'm excited to join you on this amazing journey. Have an amazing day. I'll see you later. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Entrusted to Lead podcast. This podcast was brought to you by our amazing producers at Wildfire Creative Company. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please hop over to iTunes or Spotify, subscribe, rate it, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. And make sure you come back. We'll talk more about the essence and elements of leadership on the first and third Thursday of every month. If you enjoyed today's show, you can head over to danitacummins.com/podcast and gain access to additional free resources. But make sure you subscribe to our newsletter so you can stay up to date on the latest shows. Have an amazing day. Talk to you soon.